Istaroth, a mysterious god in Genshin's pantheon, and seemingly a very important figure as well. She is known throughout Teyvat under many titles: the God of Moments, the God of Time, the Master of Time, Kairos, the Thousand Winds, Tokoyo Okami, and the Undying Wind, among many others. There are a lot of theories as to who Istaroth might be, like Paimon, the World Tree, the Traveler, Venti, Tsaritsa, and many more. But frankly, we don't exactly know who Istaroth is, and with her incredible overpowered abilities, it could be anyone. Before we talk about her abilities, let's talk a little about her history and what we currently know, which is not a whole lot. First of all, like the other gods, Istaroth is a name derived from the Ars Gotia. It is derived from the name Astaroth, who is the 29th demon in the Ars Gotia. But other than that, I don't want to talk about her real life references just yet, so we'll stick to the Genshin lore we know about her for this video. In any case, the people of Enkanomiya made a theory that Istaroth is one of the shades of the Primordial One. Note though that while it is heavily implied, it's not confirmed. It's implied in a way that during the time their people were lamenting, the Primordial One and his 3 other shades could not hear the people of Enkanomiya, but the 4th and final shade could, and later on it is mentioned that only Istaroth did not forsake them. Thus, it is implied that she is the 4th shade. But again, it is not confirmed that she is the 4th shade. It is never mentioned anywhere that she is a shade of the Primordial One. But again, it is heavily implied, so take it as you will. But because she was the only one who did not forsake Enkanomiya, she was worshipped in Enkanomiya and deeply respected, to the point that there was an organization within Enkanomiya known as the Scribes of Tokoyo Okami, who dedicated themselves to recording history and the passage of time in Enkanomiya, which is seen as an act of reverence towards the god of time. Now beyond Enkanomiya, she was also worshipped in Mondstadt as the god of time and wind, although wind here may also be referencing Barbatos, who is the Archon of Wind. They were worshipped together by all the clans of Mondstadt, and they even built the Thousand Winds Temple as a place of worship to the 2 gods. Eventually though, because of some events such as the rising of the aristocracy, where the Lawrence clan suppressed knowledge about Mondstadt's history and destroyed historical records, as well as the burning of Mondstadt's library in a tragedy known as the Great Fire of Fall Equinox. Istaroth's name was forgotten over time in Mondstadt, and the people came to believe that it was only Barbatos that was the sole deity being worshipped in Mondstadt. Her title was also mentioned in Salvindagnir, in which villagers who lived at the foot of the mountain mentioned that Dragonspine was abandoned by the Wind of Time, and interestingly, a blind spot in the eyes of the gods, something we'll get back to later. Lastly, in Inazuma, it was by Istaroth's and Makoto's power that the sacred Sakura came to be, thanks to one of her godly abilities to take seeds from a moment into the past and future. Again, we'll discuss it later. Now, truth be told, we don't know the full extent of her abilities, but it is suggested that she has control over many elements, most notably time, wind, but also light. Starting with light though, it isn't fully confirmed, but we can see that the sigils that represent her have the sun imprinted on them, as well as the yellow color. The box that we use to get rid of the darkness in Enkanomiya uses power derived from these sigils, suggesting that it is through her power that we are able to banish the darkness that empowers the abyss. Not only that, but legends mention that the great sage Aberaku no Mikoto was able to create the Dainichi Mikoshi thanks to the wisdom of Istaroth, which allowed him to bring light into Enkanomiya. The light itself may be one of the powers she had in order to fight the sovereigns, as it was mentioned that the dragon heirs loved the dark and shunned the light. She also has the power to harness 1,000 winds, but we don't know exactly how similar this is to Barbatos' power over Anemo. In Enkanomiya though, the sages detected this power of wind, which they called the Undying Wind. This power may be residue from the war with the sovereigns, as the power of water also remained in the area, which they identified as a power that came from the baptismal bishops. So even after the war with the sovereigns ended, the power residue of this god and the dragon lords remained. Unfortunately, we don't really know the shape of this power, but we do know that the people of Enkanomiya had to take them into account before building anything within the vicinity. Meaning whatever powers were still at play were still powerful enough to hinder construction of anything. And lastly, something we briefly touched on earlier, her power over time. This power is incredible, it's overpowered, and is described as the power to take seeds from a moment in time and move it into the past and the future. It's a little confusing, I know, but we actually saw this in action with the Raiden Shogun story, where A believes that Istaroth assisted Makoto in order to have the sacred sakura immediately bloom as if it had been there since the beginning. Yet the planting of the sacred sakura occurred in its future and was planted by A. In short, she took the moment A planted the sacred sakura in the future and placed that moment in the past, effectively changing reality for everyone. It even retroactively changes history, as the people of Inazuma simply remembered that the tree had always been there. It's like the ultimate retcon power. It was even only A that remembered what the true history was. It might be because she planted the tree, or maybe it's because she was a god and knew that the tree didn't exist before. But during the time, she didn't even know she was the one who would plant it. This power was also mentioned in one of the books in Enkanomiya, the parable of the tree, where the book describes that Istaroth did the exact same thing for a gardener long ago. The book reads as follows. The king's gardener and the tree spirit of the royal garden were in love. But the king wished to repair the beams of his pavilion, and so needed to cut down the tree with the most spiritual energy within it. The king was the incarnation of the primordial one, and the gardener could not defy the sovereign of sovereigns. And so he could only bring his plea to the king's priest, who was the incarnation of Tokoyo Okami. The priest had pity on the gardener and said to him, "Go and cut the branches of the spirit tree down." The gardener did so, and afterwards did as the king ordered, cutting the spirit tree itself down. Then the priest said, "Plant the spirit tree's branches in the ground." But the gardener said, "A spirit tree shall take 500 years to grow." The priest said, "Your one thought shall echo through eternity." And so the gardener planted the branches in his backyard. In an instant, the slim branches grew into a new tree, and the new tree was a continuation of the past one, for it is the god of moments who is able to take seeds from this moment into the past and the future. There are a few things I'm concerned with regarding this though, but this is more of a problem which relates to anything that has to do with time manipulation as a power. If Istaroth is able to move moments from the future into the past and vice versa, then does that mean that there is already a set timeline for the world? After all, if A didn't plant the tree in the future, then it shouldn't have appeared in the past. But it was the traveler that forced A to change her perspective of eternity when we won against her in a duel. So if it was destined for A to plant the tree, are we also following a set path in the timeline? And if there are multiple branches of time, does that mean Istaroth can move moments from one branch to another? This is why I don't like having time shenanigans. Anyway, would that mean that everyone in Teyvat is trapped within this destiny as well? Sadly, I don't have any answers, and your guess is pretty much as good as mine. Moving on from that though, it seems that Istaroth's presence is felt everywhere so long as time moves. Could it be that Istaroth's power is what watches over all of humanity? Is Dragonspine a blind spot to the gods because it was abandoned by the god of time? Istaroth is a very interesting character within Genshin, and may be a god that Traveler wouldn't want as an enemy. Thankfully, she seems like a benevolent god, but then again, her title suggests that she is a great god of the unchanging world. What if it's unchanging because she doesn't want it to change? What do you guys think though? Could she be on our side? Or is she a mastermind behind the scenes? Is the cycle of prosperity in Teyvat because of her? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And if you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching. See you next video.